Hello everyone, my name is Chen Weiling. Today I'm going to present my honors project, The Factor Affecting Development of Non-Profit Art Organization in Hong Kong in Comparing with Digital Arts Center in Taipei. So these are the contents of today's presentation. In the past, Hong Kong had always been being covered by the phrase of cultural desert. The coming of this word was not without reasons. Under the colonial control of British, Hong Kong started the cultural developments in the late period in history, which mostly started in around 1960s. By the decisions of British government, the public education to Hong Kong people did not involve arts but practical subjects, even after the raised sound of the needs of art education. The colonial government picked design instead of old arts by the reasons of design is about the practical use of creativity. The decision seems influenced the afterwards development of art towards the road of commercialization in art business of Hong Kong. The consequence of commercialization of art in Hong Kong is clearly commented by Long Ying-tai, who is a famous Taiwanese author, a literature professor, also a politician in Taiwan. While she had been living in Hong Kong 9 years, she gave out her opinion to the difference of art development on both Hong Kong and Taiwan. To her, Hong Kong is mainly controlled by the central values, which concern the highest importance on competition and free economic environment. Also, it is lack of rich culture. In contrast, Taipei had complete the solid cultural base. The fact is, cultural activities in Taipei are mainly held by civil bodies but not the government. Also, Taiwan had a higher public percentage to have study tertiary education. The lack of civic power and cultural quality is the main withdrawals for Hong Kong. This leads to the focus on Hong Kong arts organization except the governments. The Hong Kong majority knows West Kowloon Cultural District, Xi Theatres, Tai Kwun, but they are all held by the Hong Kong government. Those small arts organization groups are mostly invisible in the public's eyes, not only the reason of low interest of art of the public, but also the lack of finance support in this high spending and high standard demanding urban city. The Hong Kong government established Hong Kong Arts Development Councils in 1995, which aims to fund this kind of organization or cultural activities by several organizations. The resource allocation of art is mostly controlled by it, or the other way to get fund was the cooperation with land developers or big finance groups such as the Jockey Club. On the other hand, Taiwan had more independent art organizations. The government gives more preferential policies to art organizations. The policy includes supporting the art groups that assist in the granting of cases applying for visual arts education promotion, art exhibition, talent training, and publishing, and also the various art activities. The importance of art organization cannot be neglected. In the past, research proved non-profit arts organizations play an important role in supporting the work of artists and non-profit agencies and in developing the sector's cohesion and ability to meet its collective needs. They combine advocacy with the provision of services and being seen as the unacknowledged germ of the cultural ecosystem. In order to study comprehensively on the factors that may affect development of non-profit art organizations in Hong Kong nowadays, Taiwan is being as a comparative case under similar historical background and society but having a higher cultural positioning. Therefore, non-profit art organization is hard to survive in Hong Kong based on various factors such as opportunities and big involvement of government. On the other hand, Taiwan is well known for in having a substantial number of large groups of this kind of non-profit arts organizations that's run by civil groups? What are the factors in causing such extreme situation? So the aim of this research is to explore different factors, including opportunities and barriers affecting the development of non-profit arts organizations in Hong Kong through comparing with Taiwan as reference example. So there are 3 research questions. The first one would be, how does the related government orientation affect the inner operation of non-profit arts organizations when planning future events in recent years? And what do non-profit arts organizations prepare to ensure getting a higher probability of receiving funding to support the operation? And the third one would be, how does the non-profit arts organization works to keep the public's eyes on them constantly and become outstanding in between with other similar organizations? And to the Chapter 2 literature review. From the research from Bernd Helmig in 2014, the research points out the commercialization trend of the non-profit sector in the past decades, which leads to a higher ratio in financial performance and survival as indicators to define the non-profit organization's success. Except of the deterioration in resource availability is the typical failure reason. Strategy and control, the impact of leadership and collaboration and mission-related factors are also the indicators to affect the non-profit organizations to be success or failure. Therefore, there will be 4 independent variables: strategy and control, impact of leadership, government measures, and funding. They can be divided into inner and outside environmental factors, which will be more comprehensive to the research studies. To further explain the 4 independent variables, the government measures influence the further development of arts, which reflects the preference of government. And funding resource is a main finance stream for non-profit arts organizations to get resources and make further steps of development. The inner factors as leadership style, which make direct decisions to the organization. Their original networks also make impact to the organization preference decisions. And strategy planning is important. That a proper strategic planning can help the organizations enhance their reputation in purpose of long-term development. In fact, the role of government is important in supporting art ecology, not only for the soft power in representing their own, but also to maintain the society ongoing. However, the government would like to profit from arts through the cooperation with these non-profit arts groups. Also, it must be affected by its own consideration, because when the government had no gain or less in supporting art, it will turn out from neutralizing into having preferences on art, since not all kinds of arts can serve their interests equally. It is undenied that government funding is the most stable and reliable sources for those arts organizations. Therefore, when arts organizations apply for funding, they need to correspond to the situation of government requiring, such as the must on educational workshops or activities, and reports the participation number. The challenge for cultural organizations facing is the appropriate measurements to their performance, that placing the same economic indicators from other industries by showing the net profits only. On the other hand, for the inner factors as strategic planning, organizations should make the proper operational decisions. which also is the key to be sustainable, such as short and long-term goals, and aware of the must for the propagation of final output. Funding of revenue streams should be controlled carefully by organization managers, since changes of any revenue stream can influence the other one. And the chapter 3 of methodology. In this research, qualitative approaches will be applied as it allows flexible and innovative design which will more workable to the framework designed by researchers. It usually includes transformative worldview, narrative design, and open-end interviews. It is suitable to the situation when the topic is new and not yet been designed for a certain group, or that certain group had not yet been approached by previous existing theories, which are quotes to this research article. The case for Hong Kong would be 1A Space. It is a local arts organization running in forms of non-profit and independent group, which providing activities of contemporary art in Hong Kong and international. And for the case in Taipei, Digital Arts Center of Taipei is chosen. It is undertaken by the Association of the Visual Arts in Taiwan from Taiwan government as a non-profit art organization. They aim on providing audiences digital art exhibitions to open, create, and explore every possibilities in digital art. There will be 3 methods to obtain data for the research topic: intensive interviews, content analysis, and field observation. There will be intensive interviews with administrative staff from both organizations. A face-to-face interviews will be conducted through online video conference. The interview contents will tightly relate to the theoretical framework with their experiences due to the factors and barriers of non-profit art organization developments. Open-end questions will be involved in the interview and it will be last for around 30 minutes. Content analysis will include analysis of documents such as annual reports of organizations, policy documents from the Hong Kong Art Development Councils and Taiwan governments, which can show evidence in data of art organizations on funding amounts and percentages. And for field observation, there will be analysis to the location benefits, populations, and the spaces and facilities of the organizations, which is more certain data on select cases can be provided. So there is an interview with 1A Space. The interviewee from 1A Space is Ms. Hui Hiu Yan, who is the executive officer in 1A Space. Through the interview, I found that 1A Space had different kinds of aspects due to their structure and relationships. They had board of directors from different kinds of backgrounds, such as artists and educational background, which brings in good relationship with universities. They also had cooperation with JCCAC and West Kowloon District, since they are a very small art group which only have 4 full-time staff. Each person are professionals in different aspects. It is an art organization include visual arts, contemporary arts, and experimental arts which exist for 20 years. Therefore, it is quite well known in between similar small and medium-sized organizations. They applied ADC funding for a 3-year funding scheme. On the other hand, they will tender projects to get funding from JB and Kowloon District Councils. In her own field, the role of non-profit art organization can fulfill the arts function in between museum and private gallery, which usually work on high art for target selling, or those general arts that public well know, such as Monet or Picasso. Non-profit art organization can provide interactive arts to community, and it is a way to promote experimental art. She thinks that the most important factors for future development of organization would be government measures, funding resources, which can provide resources for organizations to make further projects and workshops. Powerful team, finance planning, and leadership are the inner factors that is important in guiding staff to work towards the same purposes, and the way on how to distribute budget. Others are not a must for the development, such as reputation is not very important. And for example, open ground is have a show that's made by solo artists. So she thinks that if the show is good, then there will be more people to come to visit. And for the standard for activities and exhibitions, she thinks that there are 4 standards on this. First, the budgets can define how big of the project. Second, the idea is creative or not. That will influence the attraction to public. So for first, human resources is important because if the organization already have venue, budget, idea, then others, administrators and workers will be essential to have. And final, the innovation is very important to brings the whole project to public. In her experience when applying funding scheme, it always needs changing of the structure and purposes in order to accord to the purposes of the project. Also, there is too much regulation from the side of offering funding, and usually there is always limited refund based on the breakdown list provided by them, such as the budget they preferred or are not considered to include. For example, the publishing fee can be refunded, but they won't pass the fee for writer. And ADC funding mainly offer for the fees in operation part, but not include fees for projects, so they usually need to find extra funding resource to have another show. And for the potential spaces for non-profit arts organizations in Hong Kong, she thinks it is highly saturated now, but most of the newcomers cannot sustain longer, and the problem usually goes to the unbalanced distribution of resources and unwilling attitude of government to the arts development, and also the social attitude to the free tickets. There will be further research for interview with digital arts centers in Taipei. The comparisons between the operation and opinion for both interviewees to the factors, and also the analysis to Hong Kong and Taiwan's government measures. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.